Hello and welcome back to the Reapers. So we have got to the BF-109 now, so we're going to go through and do our usual tutorials. We're going to start off with the cockpit look around. I'm looking at the gauges and whatnot. This is a high fidelity model. We got high fidelity and low fidelity models in DCS. This is one of the high ones, so one of the expensive planes, you know, $50 or so, with all the systems modelled and whatnot, and interactive controls in the cockpit. First impressions in the cockpit. A bit weird. I've got a big weird square frame in front of me. I'm guessing that's going to cause me problems for sighting and visuals and visual contact.
If you mean a gun sight, you can move that out of the way by just clicking on it.
Yep, I just did that, but you're not lying. Right, that's one problem solved. Okay, fine. Now the way we do these cockpit tours is we start at the very back left and we wrap our way around to the dash at the front and then all the way around to the rear right. Right, so I'm looking left and the furthest thing back I can see is like a pouch, but I can't open it or do anything to it.
Yeah, it's your map pouch, it's not really important.
Map pouch, roger. I've got some massive wheels on the left that I can actually turn. What the hell are the wheels?
That's amazing German technology in World War II, which is trim and your flaps. The inner one is your trim. You actually do have an indicator in front of that, the little bronze-coloured hole.
This aeroplane's stupid.
And then you have the flaps, which you can just see by looking out the window.
It's got a bike chain, a bike chain.
Amazing.
Oh my
Amazing
God.
German technology.
Right, okay, so this is how I'm going to trim my aeroplane. I'm going to turn this massive bike wheel, right? Fine.
Yep.
Okay, and did you say there was an indicator? I can't see that. Am I missing?
It's at the very bottom, next to your left foot. There's this little hole in a piece of metal with a bronze-coloured indicator.
It always says 0 to me. Am I missing something?
Then you're not trimming.
Oh, I see. I was turning the wrong wheel. How silly of me. Yeah, I can see. Look, you can see it turning there. That is how
Flaps
you
don't have an indicator because you don't need one. If you just move the flaps down, you can see them anyway. And on the flaps, actually, where the hinge is, you will see lines which will tell you how many degrees they are down.
On the physical wing?
Yes.
Okay, and where is the flaps control? I haven't seen that yet.
It's the same. It's the outer wheel.
It's the big wheel, right? And I'm guessing I have to. Oh, look, it works. So I literally, it's using my muscle power is what puts the flaps down. Then it's not hydraulics.
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Takes a while to put them down as well when you want to land.
So look, viewers, I'm turning the big wheel here, and that is putting my flaps down some degrees. Right. Well, that's very exciting.
And if you look at the inside part of the flaps, right over the hinges, as I mentioned, you will see black and the red stripe.
I see.
That's basically just your position indicators.
I'm on 40 degrees or something like that. Right, I've got my ailerons as well, not hydraulic, but just pulley and lever, bicycle chains and bits of string. So this is an interesting aircraft, guys. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I'm going to crash it already. But let's carry on. Right, let's carry on the cockpit. So our weird big wheels. Now we go ahead of that. What do we got first? We've got the...
No, there's still a couple of things above that actually that are interesting.
Okay.
First of all, this grey metal knob you can see. This thing locks your tail wheel in place or loosens it.
And it's just literally a little pulley, isn't it? How interesting.
Yeah, so if you pull it to the front and lower it, your tail wheel is locked.
Yep. And why would one want to lock a tail wheel out of interest?
Well, actually, honestly, you'll probably want it locked most of the time. You definitely want it locked for takeoff and landing. For taxi, I would also recommend it. You can still maneuver around. You really only need to unlock it if you really need to do very tight turns on the spot.
Roger. How interesting. Okay, that's that.
And right underneath that, there's another little lever that's kind of hard to see, where the black plaque is saying MW Stoff and Kraftstoff.
Yeah.
What that does, the BF-109 has a secondary fuel tank, which can either be filled with MW50 mixture or just standard fuel. MW50 is kind of used for wartime emergency power, basically. It just gives you a boost of something like 300 horsepower or so.
Interesting.
But you can also fill the tank with fuel. Then you'd set it to the lower position, Kraftstoff.
Yeah.
Now this is something you really don't want to fuck up at all, because basically the MW50 gets injected into the supercharger, and if you set it to the wrong position, you might either inject fuel into the supercharger or MW50 into your fuel lines, and neither is particularly good.
Right. I'm probably just not going to touch that thing, Stahl, if I'm honest with you.
Recommendable.
Yes, okay. let's go forward a little bit, and we've got what looks like actually a modern thrust stick. I was expecting something like just a raw piece of jagged metal or something, but it's actually yeah. So that is our. I'm presuming that's our throttle lever, the big thing that's pulling up and down.
Exactly.
That's fine.
So at the bottom of that, you will see a yellow lever that says engine stop.
Yeah.
So that literally just cuts off the engine. If you move the throttle forward a little bit, you can see another yellow lever. That's your booster pumps.
Okay. Yeah.
Also on the throttle itself, you will see a microphone push-to-talk key, basically in the very front.
A-firm. Yeah.
And on the right side, there's this little.
Oh, I see. That's the microphone. Yeah. Yeah. What's that thing on the right?
Well, it says increase and decrease RPM, but what it really is, it's for your prop pitch. Usually your prop pitch is automated and you don't really want to screw with that, but if that fails for some reason, or your engine fails and you want to feather it, that's how you can do that. If you want to turn your prop automation, your prop pitch automation off, there's a little black switch at the bottom of the throttle.
Yes, A-firm.
And above that you can see another white pulley which is called weather start, but it's not actually implemented.
A-firm. I've got oh, that's the thing I pull out. It's on a spring.
Yeah, exactly, the white one.
Yep, A-firm. Okay. We can go down now. We've got Bomben Notwehrgriff.
So that's your emergency jettison for bombs or fuel tanks.
It looks very easy to catch on my sleeve by accident. I'm not keen on that. Okay, so that's that. What's the big red...
That's why they didn't use to fly these aircraft in kimonos, but in tight flight suits.
Ah, that'll be why. Right. I see another bicycle chain. That must be the rudder. Right, okay. What about the red stop switch?
That's your fuel priming pump. So in the beginning, when the engine's not going yet, you'll need some way to actually pump fuel into the engine.
Yeah.
So you need to build up pressure with that to get it started.
Super pump. Okay. Going forward a bit, we've got the Kühler Abschaltung.
That's your left radiator cutoff lever. You also have one on the right side for your right radiator.
Why would I want this? Why would I want to cut off
if the radiator fails for some reason,
oh, if it's
I guess
leak.
you probably leak coolant or something, and you could stop it maybe with that. I'm not entirely sure. I've never had to use it.
A-firm, that's fine. Right, just want to see if I can get these pulleys to down with the rudder. So that's an interesting set of rudder pedals. A bit over-engineered, but yeah, I can turn the pulleys and turn my bike chain. Excellent. Okay, that's that. Where are we going now? Just out of interest, above the throttle setup is a weird kind of copper-looking thing with vents in it. What the deuce is that?
Yeah, that's your left UV light. It's kind of like the MiG-15. It has fluorescent paint on the gauges.
Yes. Lols.
So if you want to light it up in the night, you need UV light, and you have two of those left and right.
Is it modelled?
It is modelled, yes.
Excellent news. Okay, so that's all that lot. Right, so let me have a sip of my tea, and then we're moving on to the dash. God, look at that seat. That doesn't look very comfy. The seat is just a piece of steel or alloy. It's horrific. Sod being a Wehrmacht driver, or whatever they were called. Absolute.
Well, the 109s aren't exactly known for being comfortable.
No, well they should be. You've got to be kind to your pilots. Right, okay, next. Oh, okay, let's have a go. Kabinenabwehrhebel ziehen, wenn Kabine nicht abgeht. Verriegelung lösen, Kopf verbeugen. Go on, convert it.
That's actually not terrible. It's your canopy jettison, and it says pull the lever, the red one underneath.
Yes.
And if it doesn't come off, you need to unlock it using your standard canopy lever and basically lower your head.
Roger.
To unlock it.
Again, to me it looks like something I can catch on my sleeve, but that's why I wear a tight flight suit. Right, let's start at the bottom left of the dash. We've got ein and aus, and what is this? So there's a...
That's your landing gear buttons.
Ah, okay.
And right next to that you can also see your landing gear indicator, the two green lights if it's out or the red one if it's in.
Yeah, so out left, out right, in, and that for flying and that for landing. Okay, that's pretty simple. Just slightly right, we've got a kind of pulley lever for mic 1 and mic 2 and mic 1 again. What's that?
Yeah, that's your magnetos.
Oh, okay. Bim, 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 bim. Okay, that's fine. We've got a yellow thing above, it doesn't seem to do anything. So we're going to go left a little bit. We've got a thing we can pull up.
That's your starter or your ignition. We'll need that later on.
Okay, fine. Above that we've got, oh my god, what does that say? Net Sauschlachter. What does that mean?
Schalter. It's your power kill switch, basically.
Interesting. Powers. So that's how you turn your engine off, I assume. Okay.
It's not for the engine actually. It's for the electric system.
Why would you have that?
Well, it's actually part of the shutdown procedure, but also I guess if some electric systems are damaged or start to fry or something.
Understood. So it's just a kill
You know
switch.
how you have these big emergency buttons, the red ones on big machinery?
Yes, you do.
That's kind of that.
I can tell you because the electrics in my 27-year-old Nissan are so bad now that I've installed a kill switch. So when they start burning and catching fire to the car every time, I can now kill it. Right.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Right now, some sort of pressure gauge, kilograms, at least they're metric, kilograms per centimetre squared. Is this hydraulics for the brakes? Or?
No, that's your MW50 pressure actually.
So this is the fuel.
It's not fuel, it's what gives you the boost. So MW50 is a 50-50 mixture of water and methanol, which is injected into the supercharger, which cools the air that comes in because it evaporates, and basically allows the supercharger to compress the air further, so you have more air at the same pressure that goes into the engine. Gives you about an additional 300 horsepower. So.
Do you ever use it?
Yeah, all the time. As long as you turn the system on, it actually comes in line automatically as long as you throttle up far enough.
Okay, that's something we're going to want to use. Okay, now let's go right. We've got a speedo. I'm guessing IAS in clicks per hour.
Yep.
Okay, so that's pretty simple. Next, below, is that an altimeter?
That's an altimeter, yes. So the needle will show you the altitude in meters, and the angels will be shown at the bottom of the gauge. In the center there's a number. And at the top center you can also see your QFE. You can adjust that with the little knob at the bottom.
Roger, and I guess we can change that. There you go, we can change the QFE based on our altitude. I'm just trying to work this out. This is kilometers, so those angels in kilometers then.
Yes.
Which is thousands of meters, yeah. And then what are the 0.2? So what does 0.2 actually mean on the left? 0.2 kilometers.
0.2 kilometers, yeah. So it's hundreds of meters, or tenths of kilometers around the gauge, and the whole kilometers are shown on the bottom.
That's going to take a while for my little brain to get used to. Right, two switches underneath.
The top one is actually the MW50 system, so you can turn it off if you don't want to use it at all, without having to worry about accidentally switching it off. On that is by just throttling up. And the one underneath, I don't think is actually implemented because it's for your wing cannons, and there's no wing cannons yet. I'm not sure if it's yet or at all, but
okay,
not implemented.
Right, we've got a big kind of gangly.
Actually,
carry on.
It's actually another switch to the bottom left of that. It says MK-108/R21. It's also not implemented, but theoretically that would be to switch between wing-mounted gondolas with guns or R21 rockets.
Do we have rockets yet?
Neither. There's no gondolas with guns, and there's also no rockets.
Sounds like something coming later on. Okay. So that's that. Next we've got a control stick. It's got 3 buttons on. It's got a trigger for... Let me see if I can remember what I bound. Yep, there's a safety. We've got a trigger for guns, a trigger for cannons, and a trigger for, if I can find it, bombs. Okay, that's fair enough.
So this is actually very much like the MiG-15 stick. You'll see if you use the weapon safety cover.
Yep.
The cover will flip forwards, be your MG131 trigger, and the MK-108 button will be uncovered.
Interesting.
And also it has the pinky button, which is the weapons release.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very MiG-15, isn't it? There's a lot of things that are similar to the MiG-15 in this, which is...
Well, I mean, MiG-15 was kind of later than this, so if anyone stole, it was not the 109.
Hey, firm. Okay, right, it's got a kind of weird groin panel here. I can't actually work out what it is. Waagerecht, what is this?
That's your bomb fuse selector. So you have Sturz and Waagerecht, which means dive bombing or horizontal bombing.
Roger.
And MV and OV stands for mit Verzögerung and ohne Verzögerung, which is with or without delay.
Understood. Right, so that's something we're going to have to go through a bit more in the bombing, but okay, so bombing controls. Right, so let's head directly up now. We've got a HSI / it's HSI, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an HSI, and you can actually turn the entire scale if you feel like it, to set a course that you want to fly towards. Because, like in the MiG-15, it's just the aircraft model that moves, not the entire compass.
A4. Okay, that's pretty cool. Fine, so we can set courses with that. Next are artificial horizon / attitude indicator. So it's going to show if we're rolling, if we're pitching, if we're, what our aircraft's doing, if we can't see
also
out.
slip indicator, but you will have to actually unlock that. If you look around the rim, you can see los and fest. So fest means, fastened, and los is loose. You want to have los at the bottom center for it to work. This little arrow there pointing in.
So you turn that, you got to remember to turn that ring, so that'll be in the startup procedure then. So that's a cage, that's how they cage this then, uncage it. Right, okay, heading up, we've got Mike Golf 151 links. No, that's not anything. We've got a switch on the top left. What's this?
It's a DS at KK3 open control.
What's that, a safety?
That's basically a master arm.
Master arm on, master arm off, understood. Next we've got 2 ladder gauges. I can't work out what these are.
Those are your ammo counters for the MG131's nose-mounted machine guns.
Wow.
So those are 13mm machine guns with 300 rounds each. If you twist them up, you can see this white bar slowly rise. And if you have a full load, you actually want to set it to the 4th bar. So the tip basically aligns with the 4th bar.
Okay.
These ammo counters are not directly connected with your aircraft magazine. It's basically just a timer that counts down as long as you're holding the trigger.
Roger, so it's just a rough, okay, fine. Okay, now we've got this weird gun sight thing, that kind of you can move about. Bit gay, a bit MiG-15 again.
It's actually a lot simpler. It's just a very basic gun sight. There's no gyro, no nothing. When we turn it on, you'll see there's just a circle in there with some mil dots, and the circle roughly represents a fighter wingspan at 100 meters, so it can be used to judge the distance to an aircraft as long as you have an idea how large it is. Okay,
we'll go through that in the gunnery. Right, just behind this is something I'm trying to look at, a gauge of some sort. Is that a chronometer?
If you just lower it, you'll see it, it's a clock.
And what can we do? We can turn the outside wheel of it.
Yeah, there's also a stopwatch included.
Can't see that.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah, if you just... There's 2 buttons, there's a knob and there's a button. If you hit the bottom button, the stopwatch will start turning.
Yay! Okay. Beautiful. Very nice. Okay, let's go down. We've got steigt und sinkt, so this is the climb, this is the sink rate gauge, climb rate gauge, you know what I'm trying to say, in meters per second positive, meters per second sinking. Okay, very good. Next is something that says near. What the deuce is this?
Well, it's basically like the EDF and the MiG-15, except a bit more primitive. It only has one preset, so there's no screwing around with dials to find the station or anything. If you really want to use this, it would have to be set in a mission editor to work correctly.
Right, so this is navigation to an ADF station of some kind then?
Exactly, so you have the vertical needle, just shows you left and right, so you know which way to go. The thing that says nahe is a distance indicator, so nahe means near, and if it's the other way, it's further away. It's very rough, of course. In the center you can see a light. As soon as you're passing over a beacon, this will light up. You might actually notice that when you take off or come in for a landing.
Roger. So this was relatively advanced, wasn't it? I mean, I didn't see this in the Mustang or the Spit.
Well, in some ways, but as I mentioned, you can't actually dial it to anything other than, the ground crew can, obviously.
Yeah. So this is only for RTB then, basically. You'd preset this on the ground to your... to find your way back home.
Exactly. Also, one thing to note, this thing cannot actually necessarily tell whether something is in front or behind you. It just tells you how far off the axis you are, basically.
Yeah.
You can check that by moving your pedals to the left and the right. I think if you're moving your pedals to the left, this thing should move to the left as well. And if it moves to the right, then you need to turn 180.
Okay, fine. Okay, know what it is. Let's shift down and right. We've got ATA. What the deuce is that?
That's your supercharger pressure indicator. This was actually primarily used by 109 pilots while flying in formations to, set their speed rather than RPM that we use in jets a lot today.
Okay, cool, fine. Next, no idea. Something per minute. RPM?
U per minute. That's your RPM, yes.
RPM
in hundreds
of the actual engine, of the crank of the engine, I suppose, rather than prop, or is it a prop? I guess it's the engine.
That's the engine, I think, yeah.
Roger. Next is some kind of pressure. I'm guessing wheel brakes, but I'm usually wrong. What is this?
Negative. That's your fuel pressure on the left of your main fuel line, and on the right side it's your oil pressure.
Okay, fuel pressure and oil pressure. Very good. Next, engine cooling temperature, I'm guessing. No, maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's coolant in the top, and the red one underneath is oil temperature.
Oil temperature, that's coolant. Okay, stuff you've got to keep an eye on. Next is Luftschraube. What's this?
So this is a bit weird. This is a prop pitch indicator. So if you really start changing the prop pitch yourself, you will probably have to use this, although it's kind of weird to read. 10 minutes on this display. It's kind of like a clock. 10 minutes would be a 1 degree prop pitch change. So 1 hour is 6 degrees.
Right. You know what? I'm probably never ever going to change that, but that's there if you want to know. Okay, Notzugfahrwerk. What's that?
Emergency gear release. Now this is just a gravity release basically. So when you use that, you might have to rock the aircraft around a bit for it actually to drop.
Yeah, that's fine. And what the deuce is the thing below it?
Fuel gauge in hundreds of liters, and the red light to the right of it is your emergency fuel light. That means you have about, I think, 30 liters of fuel left, which should give you about 5 minutes of flight time.
Roger. Okay, let's go right. Something that looks boringly like a pistol.
That's because it is. It's a flare gun that's just mounted in the side of your fuselage.
So that's the best they can come up with, is just a gun stuck through a hole. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get like 3 flares of 4 different colors each, so it's pretty good.
Do you have to reload it with each flare?
It will do it automatically, but you can also just set keybinds for whatever flare color you want.
Interesting. And what? Oh, whoopsie. And what were these flares for then?
Generally signal flares, finding a wingman and such.
Right, yeah, I thought it must be. Right, but another UV
Or if your radio fails, you could also signal that.
Interesting, okay. Right, so let's move on. What have we got here? A black turning knob called a fuel jettison. That sounds weird.
Yeah, that's your NW50 or fuel jettison from the secondary tank you have behind.
Okay, that's fine. Below that is a brown lever of some kind that I can't even read. What is that?
That's for your radiator flaps. Generally speaking, this is set to auto and you don't really have to change it. You might want to consider putting it to AUF on the right side during startup, just to make sure you don't overheat. But usually it shouldn't be necessary, so it's automatic in the top, off in the left, open on the right, well actually closed on the left and off at the bottom.
Okay, I saw something leaking out the bottom of my plane there, but it's gone now. That must have been my NW450 or whatever it was called. Okay, radiator flaps, so we'll leave them where they are for now. Something below that, cooler Abschaltung, so that's the same as the left, shut off.
Exactly, it's just your radiator shut off for the right side.
A firm, got a funny little yellow pipe, which is going to be something to do with oxygen, I guarantee, and yes it is.
No, it's actually a fuel line.
Ah, that is our fuel line, right through our cockpit.
This is not your main fuel line, this is for your external fuel if you're carrying a bag.
Right, okay, well I hope I don't get a leak there in that little black Jubilee clip thing, but okay.
I'll just open the window, it'll be fine.
Okay, fine. O2 Vector, what's that?
That's your oxygen flow indicator.
Roger.
And underneath that you can see your oxygen pressure gauge and your oxygen valve.
Okay, there it is. Turning off and turning on. Yep, got that. There's a big blue thing on the left. Doesn't seem to do anything. Must be a pump.
Yeah, it's also the O2 system.
Right. Then we've got a couple of black knobs. If we go back a little bit, what are we cooking on here? I've got a Fuke 16 ZY fine tune. What the deuce?
The FUG16 is your radio you have, so this is the fine tuning knob. You do, however, also only have 4 presets in this thing. You don't actually get to tune it yourself, except for the fine tuning, obviously.
So presets are on the left then, I'm guessing. That yep, presets left.
Yeah, exactly. So the number 1, the Roman numeral 1, would be communications within your flight or squadron. Number 2 is if you're communicating between several flights from different squadrons. The triangle is your ATC frequency, and the square is kind of sort of guard. It's a nationwide frequency which is used either for very large combined operations or emergency situations.
Affirm, understood. Right, we can keep heading back a bit. The next one back is just the volume, so that's fine. Weird knob, but okay. Next is a ZF, YZF, and FT. There's no obvious. I don't know what that is. Basically, as a thing.
That's some kind of setting for the radio. I'm actually not sure what that does, to be honest.
Right, and then we go right Knopf ziehen. What's that?
That one doesn't work, but the Prüfen button does.
Test.
The FUG-25 is actually an early IFF system. Now you can't IFF between aircraft, but ground radar will be able to.
Okay, we've got ground power cable there, and some other kind of tube there. That's not touchable. Right, we've got fuses, / circuit breakers, / relays. I can't quite get to them. Well, what are these things on the right below the gun? Below the piston?
Yeah, that's your main circuit breaker panel. So the top one would be your generator, then you have top left one, top front one. Then you have your heaters, which is your pitot heat, your window heat, and your glove heat, all in one. The third one is your nav lights, then you have your UV lights for night flying. The next one is for external weapons, whether that be bombs, wing gondolas, or also recon devices. The last one does a whole bunch of stuff, including ignition, and it also enables power to the prop pitch governor and stuff.
Okay.
Closer towards you, the top one in the second row says Sammler. That's the battery. FUG-16 is your radio. FUG-25A is your IFF, and tank pumper is your fuel pump.
Beautiful. Okay. And that appears to be it. So, summary, it's okay. It's okay. A bit weird. There's some weird stuff in there. There's also some fairly revolutionary stuff in there. So,
yeah, one thing they did with the BF-109, it used to be actually in the earlier versions, like the F, for example, a quite neat and organized cockpit. But they just kind of crammed more and more stuff in there without really necessarily caring much about ergonomics and such.
Same with the Sabre. By the time they got to the one that we fly, it's just cramped of shit everywhere.
Yeah, so it just ended up being somewhat chaotic.
Alright, cool. We hope you enjoyed that. We're going to go and fly our plane now, but we'll see you later.